My fellow citizens, friends, and freedom fighters. We gather today to reflect on the essence of two powerful words, freedom and justice. These words have echoed through the halls of history, carried on the hopes of millions who have fought, suffered, and given their lives so that future generations may experience a world that is just and free. They are not just words, they are the foundation of our shared humanity. Freedom and justice are fundamental ideals that have been woven into the fabric of human existence for centuries. They are not merely abstract concepts but are vital to the dignity, rights, and development of every individual. Yet, despite their importance, they are often misunderstood when considered separately. The reality is that freedom and justice are not independent of one another. They are interdependent, mutually reinforcing forces that cannot truly exist in isolation. Without justice, freedom loses its meaning. And without freedom, justice remains an empty promise. To understand the interconnection of freedom and justice, one must first consider what freedom truly means. Freedom is often defined as the ability to act, speak, or think as one wants without unnecessary interference or restriction. It is about the right to live one's life according to personal choice, free from the constraints of oppressive systems. However, while freedom gives individuals the autonomy to pursue their own lives, it does not guarantee fairness or equality. If one person's freedom causes harm to another, it must be curtailed. This is where justice comes in. It ensures that freedom is exercised in a manner that is not detrimental to others, upholding the rights and dignity of all individuals. Justice, in its truest sense, is the principle of fairness. It seeks to create a society where individuals are treated with respect and equality, where the law is applied without bias, and where wrongdoers are held accountable. Justice demands that every individual be treated with dignity, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or socioeconomic status. Justice is what makes the practice of freedom justifiable. It is what ensures that the exercise of one person's freedom does not infringe on the rights of another. Without justice, freedom would be a free-for-all, a state where might determines what is right, and where the powerful can trample on the rights of the weak. The interconnection of freedom and justice becomes most apparent when we examine historical struggles for both. Take, for instance, the fight against apartheid in South Africa. The system of apartheid denied millions of black South Africans their basic freedoms, treating them as second-class citizens in their own land. Their struggle was not merely for freedom in the conventional sense, but for justice, for a fair system that recognized their humanity and dignity. In this case, justice was essential to securing freedom. The dismantling of apartheid was not just about removing physical restrictions, but about establishing a just society where every individual could live without fear, where their rights were protected by law, and where they had the opportunity to thrive. In this way, freedom and justice were intertwined. The absence of justice rendered freedom hollow, and the absence of freedom rendered justice unattainable. Similarly, in the context of civil rights movements across the world, the fight for equality was not just a demand for the freedom to live as one wished, but a call for justice. The African American civil rights movement in the United States, for example, sought not only to end segregation and discrimination, but to establish a justice system where the law applied equally to all. Freedom was essential, but it had to be accompanied by justice, the assurance that the freedom granted would not come with the burden of inequality or discrimination. For marginalized groups, justice was the means by which freedom could be protected and preserved. Without justice, the freedom that was fought for would have remained fragile and easily undermined by entrenched inequalities. Furthermore, the interconnection between freedom and justice is evident in the way societies are structured. In a just society, the freedoms of individuals are safeguarded, but so are the freedoms of the collective. Justice recognizes that the rights of one cannot be guaranteed at the expense of another. It is the job of the legal and political systems to ensure that freedom does not devolve into chaos or exploitation. A free society without justice is vulnerable to the exploitation of the weak by the strong. The powerful can dominate, and the voices of the oppressed can be silenced. This is why justice is so crucial to the practice of freedom. It acts as a check on the misuse of freedom, ensuring that no one person or group can infringe upon the rights and freedoms of others. Justice also plays a role in the pursuit of economic freedom. In many parts of the world, economic inequality is a significant barrier to true freedom. Wealth and resources are concentrated in the hands of a few, while the majority are denied access to opportunities that would allow them to live freely. In this sense, justice demands that wealth be more equitably distributed, so that every individual has access to the resources needed to exercise their freedom to pursue education, health, work, and a better quality of life. The justice that seeks to correct these imbalances is what allows freedom to flourish. It is not enough to grant individuals political or civil freedoms. Economic justice is required to ensure that all people can truly enjoy those freedoms. At its core, the interconnection of freedom and justice is about the recognition of human dignity. Both freedom and justice are grounded in the belief that every individual is worthy of respect, equality, and the right to make choices about their own life. Freedom without justice leads to inequality and the erosion of human dignity, while justice without freedom stifles personal expression and self-determination. Together, freedom and justice form a balanced system in which every person can live a life of dignity and opportunity. In conclusion, the connection between freedom and justice is undeniable. One cannot exist without the other. True freedom is only meaningful when it is underpinned by justice, and justice can only be achieved in a society that allows for the exercise of freedom. They are two sides of the same coin, each shaping and defining the other. As we continue to strive for a more just and free world, we must recognize that the two are not merely ideals to be pursued, but essential principles upon which the well-being and dignity of every human being depend. We must commit ourselves to both, ensuring that freedom and justice are not just aspirations but realities for all. The struggle for equality is one of the most profound and enduring movements in human history. It is a struggle that transcends borders, cultures, and time periods, one that has been fought with courage, sacrifice, and hope by countless individuals and communities. The fight for equality is not simply about achieving a balance of rights or privileges. It is a fight for the inherent dignity of every human being, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or socioeconomic status. It is the struggle to ensure that every person, regardless of their background, has the same opportunities and freedoms as others. At the heart of the struggle for equality is the recognition that all human beings are born with inherent worth and dignity. This recognition is rooted in the belief that no one should be judged based on the circumstances of their birth, their skin color, their gender, or any other characteristic that does not define their true essence. Yet, throughout history, societies have been built on systems of inequality, where individuals have been oppressed, marginalized, and denied their basic rights simply because of who they are. The struggle for equality has been a constant endeavor to dismantle these systems of oppression and replace them with a just and fair society that allows every person to thrive. In many parts of the world, the struggle for equality has centered on the fight against racial discrimination. For centuries, people of African descent, particularly in the United States and South Africa, were subjected to legalized systems of segregation and oppression. In the United States, the African American community was denied basic human rights under the institution of slavery, and even after slavery was abolished, segregation and discriminatory laws continued to enforce inequality. The civil rights movement of the 1960s in the United States, led by figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X, was a pivotal moment in the fight for racial equality. Through nonviolent protests, legal challenges, and grassroots activism, these leaders and their followers demanded an end to racial segregation, the right to vote, and the equal treatment of African Americans under the law. Similarly, in South Africa, apartheid was a brutal system of racial segregation that denied Black South Africans their basic rights and freedoms. The struggle against apartheid was led by figures such as Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, and Steve Biko, who fought tirelessly against the institutionalized racism that oppressed their people. Through both peaceful resistance and armed struggle, they demanded an end to apartheid and the creation of a democratic society where all people, regardless of their race, could live as equals. The eventual dismantling of apartheid in the early 1990s marked a historic victory in the struggle for racial equality and the affirmation of human dignity. However, the struggle for equality is not limited to issues of race. Gender inequality has also been a long-standing and pervasive issue across the globe. Women have historically been denied the same rights and opportunities as men, from the right to vote to the right to own property, from the right to work to the right to education. In many societies, women have been treated as second-class citizens, their voices silenced and their contributions minimized. The feminist movement, which began in earnest in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, sought to challenge these gendered inequities and demand equality for women in all spheres of life. Figures like Susan B. Anthony, Emily Pankhurst, and Simone de Beauvoir fought for women's suffrage, reproductive rights, and gender equality in the workplace. Today, the struggle for gender equality continues in many parts of the world. Women are still fighting for equal pay, the right to make choices about their own bodies, and an end to gender-based violence. The global Me Too movement, which began in 2017, is one of the most recent manifestations of this ongoing struggle, as women around the world have come together to speak out against sexual harassment and violence. While progress has been made, the fight for gender equality is far from over, and the work of securing equal rights and opportunities for women must continue. The struggle for equality also extends to the rights of LGBTQ individuals, who have long been marginalized and oppressed in many societies. For centuries, LGBTQ people were subjected to criminalization, persecution, and social stigma. Homosexuality was classified as a mental illness, and LGBTQ individuals were often forced to hide their true identities for fear of violence or discrimination. The modern LGBTQ rights movement gained momentum in the 20th century, particularly after the 1969 Stonewall riots in New York City, which marked a turning point in the fight for LGBTQ rights. Since then, LGBTQ individuals have fought for the right to marry, the right to serve openly in the military, and the right to live without fear of discrimination. Legal victories, such as the legalization of same-sex marriage in many countries, have been important milestones in the struggle for equality, but many challenges remain, particularly in countries where LGBTQ rights are still denied or criminalized. The struggle for equality also encompasses economic justice. In many societies, the wealthy and powerful hold disproportionate control over resources and opportunities, while the poor and marginalized are left to struggle in poverty. Economic inequality is one of the most pressing issues of our time, as it creates barriers to education, healthcare, and basic human needs. The fight for economic equality is about ensuring that all people, regardless of their background, have access to the resources they need to live fulfilling lives. It is about creating a society where wealth is not concentrated in the hands of a few, but shared equitably, so that every individual has the opportunity to succeed. Throughout history, the struggle for equality has been a battle against systems of oppression that seek to divide people based on their differences. Whether these systems are based on race, gender, sexuality, or class, the fight for equality is a call for justice and human dignity. It is a call to recognize that all people, regardless of their background or identity, are deserving of the same rights, opportunities, and respect. It is a struggle that continues today, as individuals and communities around the world continue to fight for a world where equality is not just a dream but a reality. The struggle for equality is not just the responsibility of those who are oppressed, it is a collective responsibility. It is a call to all of us to stand in solidarity with those who are marginalized and to work together to create a world where every person can live with dignity and opportunity. Equality is not a gift to be granted, it is a right to be fought for and protected. As long as inequality exists, the struggle for equality must continue. Only through this struggle can we build a future where every person is truly free and equal. The price of freedom is a concept that has been tested throughout history. It is not simply an abstract ideal, but something that has come at a profound cost for individuals and entire communities, often measured in sacrifice, struggle, and at times even the loss of life. Freedom is a powerful force, capable of transforming societies, breaking chains of oppression, and bringing about change. Yet, it is not a gift given freely. It is a price that must be paid, often through immense courage, persistence, and a willingness to confront entrenched systems of power and control. The price of freedom is seen most starkly in the lives of those who have fought to secure it. From the abolitionists who fought against slavery, to the civil rights leaders who demanded equality, to the soldiers who have fought in wars to protect national sovereignty and individual rights, freedom has come at a steep price. These individuals and groups have risked everything: their safety, their reputations, and their lives to secure a future where others might live without fear of oppression. Their sacrifices are a reminder that freedom is not easily won. It demands the willingness to stand against injustice, even when the cost is high. Throughout history, people have fought for freedom under a variety of circumstances. The American Revolution is one such example, where colonists in what would become the United States fought against the British Empire for their right to self-determination. The struggle for independence came at a high price. Thousands of lives were lost in battle, and the war's effects were felt for generations. But the ultimate reward was the establishment of a nation built on the principles of liberty, where individuals could govern themselves and live free from the control of foreign rulers. Similarly, the struggle for freedom in the African context, particularly in South Africa, saw individuals like Nelson Mandela, who spent years in prison, and others who endured brutal violence and repression, pay an unimaginable price for their vision of a free and just society. Their efforts led to the dismantling of apartheid, a system of institutionalized racial segregation, and the creation of a democratic South Africa. Yet the price of freedom does not always manifest in the form of physical sacrifice. Sometimes it is paid in the loss of comfort, status, and security. For those who take a stand against oppression, freedom requires the willingness to risk what they know and hold dear. In many cases, the fight for freedom forces individuals to give up their own privilege or position in society in order to ensure that others can experience equality. The abolitionists in the United States, such as Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and others, gave up their own safety and comfort to fight for the freedom of enslaved people. Their actions, in the face of overwhelming odds, altered the course of history. Similarly, the women who fought for suffrage and gender equality often faced social ostracism, ridicule, and sometimes imprisonment as they pushed for a society that recognized the equal rights of women. The price of freedom was often measured in the rejection of societal norms that demanded conformity to oppressive systems. The price of freedom is also evident in the costs borne by nations that are trying to establish or maintain their independence. In the case of countries that have fought for sovereignty, such as those in Africa during the decolonization period, the cost of freedom was staggering. Entire communities were displaced, families torn apart, and lives lost as colonial powers fought to hold on to their empires. The struggle for freedom in these regions involved the endurance of tremendous hardship, including poverty, violence, and the loss of loved ones. But in many cases, this struggle led to the eventual dismantling of colonial regimes and the establishment of independent nations where citizens could freely determine their own futures. The loss of life is perhaps the most obvious price of freedom. Wars, revolutions, and movements for civil rights have often been marked by violence, resulting in the death of countless individuals. But even as people lay down their lives, they do so with the hope that their sacrifice will create a better world for future generations. The soldiers who fought in the two world wars gave their lives not just for the protection of their homelands, but for the preservation of the freedoms and values they held dear. The freedom they fought to protect was one that would eventually bring about greater justice, peace, and opportunity for the generations that followed. In addition to the loss of life, the fight for freedom can lead to the loss of stability, the tearing apart of societies, and the enduring trauma of those who are caught in the crossfire. War and revolution often bring chaos, dislocation, and deep societal divisions. The aftermath of conflict can leave communities scarred, with lingering issues such as poverty, economic hardship, and the erosion of social trust. Even after freedom is achieved, the journey does not end. Reconstruction, healing, and reconciliation are necessary steps in rebuilding what has been lost during the fight for freedom. This is especially true in cases where nations or communities have had to dismantle deeply entrenched systems of oppression. The price of freedom, in this case, includes the long road to recovery and the painful process of overcoming the legacies of injustice. Freedom also has a moral price. It requires individuals and societies to choose between comfort and the ethical responsibility to act. For many, freedom means standing up against wrongdoing, even when doing so is difficult or unpopular. This has been the case with whistleblowers, activists, and those who have risked their safety to expose corruption or injustice. The moral price of freedom requires the courage to speak the truth, even when it means facing personal consequences, such as losing a job or reputation, or even facing persecution. It is the price of standing firm in one's convictions, no matter the cost. In modern times, the price of freedom is also about the responsibility to safeguard it for future generations. Freedom is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing battle to preserve the rights and liberties that have been won. It demands vigilance, active participation, and a continual commitment to justice. The price of freedom in the present day is seen in the ongoing efforts to combat authoritarianism, to protect human rights, and to ensure that future generations inherit a world where freedom is not only protected but celebrated. In conclusion, the price of freedom is one that can never be fully quantified, for it is paid in countless forms, in lives lost, in sacrifices made, in struggles fought, and in the enduring work of safeguarding the values of liberty and justice. Freedom is not free, but it is priceless. Those who have fought for it, and those who continue to fight for it, bear this cost with the knowledge that the price they pay today will ensure a better tomorrow. And though the cost may be high, the rewards of freedom, peace, opportunity, dignity, and justice are worth every sacrifice. The role of unity in achieving justice is a crucial and often underestimated aspect of the struggle for equality, fairness, and human dignity. Throughout history, justice has not been easily attained, nor has it been a simple or straightforward process. Achieving true justice requires the coming together of individuals, communities, and nations who are committed to a shared vision of fairness. Unity acts as the foundation upon which movements for justice are built, giving them strength, resilience, and the ability to overcome challenges. It transforms individual efforts into collective action, turning isolated voices into a chorus that cannot be ignored. Without unity, justice remains an elusive ideal, distant and unattainable. The importance of unity in achieving justice can be seen in the way social movements have shaped the course of history. From the abolition of slavery to the civil rights movement, from the fight for women's suffrage to the push for LGBTQ rights, every significant social change has been the result of united efforts. When people come together, their collective power can challenge the structures of oppression that have long denied them justice. Unity amplifies voices, making it impossible for systems of injustice to continue without resistance. Take, for example, the civil rights movement in the United States during the 1950s and 1960s. It was not the efforts of a single individual, but the collective action of a broad coalition of activists, including leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X, along with thousands of ordinary people, that brought about the end of racial segregation and discrimination. Unity was key in creating a movement that was powerful enough to challenge the deeply entrenched system of racial injustice. Protesters organized marches, sit-ins, and boycotts, unified by their common cause, the desire for equality under the law and an end to racial injustice. It was the strength of their unity that led to landmark changes, such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Alone, each individual protest might have been dismissed, but together the voices of many created a powerful force that could no longer be ignored. Similarly, the struggle against apartheid in South Africa demonstrated the undeniable importance of unity in achieving justice. Nelson Mandela, who became a symbol of the fight for justice, understood that unity was the key to dismantling the racist policies of apartheid. Although the African National Congress (ANC) initially faced significant opposition and division, Mandela and his fellow activists recognized that only by coming together could they overcome the oppressive regime. The unity of Black South Africans, along with the support of international allies, created a powerful movement that eventually led to the end of apartheid and the establishment of a democratic South Africa. The peaceful nature of the struggle, in spite of the extreme repression faced by the people, was only possible through a united commitment to nonviolence and the belief that justice could be achieved without further bloodshed. Beyond social movements, unity is also vital in the context of legal systems and political structures. In many instances, justice is achieved not only through grassroots activism, but also through the efforts of lawmakers, the judiciary, and governments working together for the common good. A just society is one where laws are made to protect the rights of all individuals, and those laws are enforced fairly and equally. Unity among different branches of government, as well as among political parties, is essential in creating and upholding laws that reflect the values of justice and equality. When there is unity in the pursuit of justice within the legal system, it becomes a force that can challenge systemic injustices, ensure accountability, and protect those whose rights are most vulnerable. Furthermore, unity in the fight for justice helps to bridge divides that might otherwise prevent progress. In many societies, the fight for justice is complicated by divisions based on race, class, religion, or other factors. These divisions often serve as obstacles to unity and can prevent people from working together toward a common goal. However, when individuals and groups are able to overcome these divisions and unite in the name of justice, they strengthen their ability to effect change. Unity allows people from different walks of life to see beyond their differences and recognize their shared humanity. In the face of injustice, unity becomes a tool for solidarity, reminding us that the struggle for justice is not just a personal fight but a collective one. One of the most profound ways that unity plays a role in achieving justice is by fostering a sense of shared responsibility. When people come together for a common cause, they recognize that the fight for justice is not something that can be achieved by a few individuals acting alone. It is something that requires the effort of everyone. This sense of shared responsibility encourages individuals to take action, whether it is through organizing protests, speaking out against injustice, or supporting policies that promote equality. The strength of unity lies in the recognition that justice is not only about individual rights, but also about the rights of others. When people unite to achieve justice, they are not just seeking justice for themselves, but for the community as a whole. Unity also helps to build momentum. Movements for justice can often feel slow and frustrating, as change is difficult to achieve and progress is often incremental. However, when people are united, they can maintain pressure on systems of power and continue pushing for change even in the face of setbacks. The unity of those fighting for justice provides the energy and resolve necessary to overcome obstacles and remain committed to the cause. Movements that are unified are more likely to survive the hardships that come with long-term struggles and to achieve meaningful change. Finally, unity in the pursuit of justice brings with it a profound sense of moral clarity. It reminds individuals and groups that justice is not a negotiable ideal, but a fundamental right that should be protected for everyone. When people unite for justice, they are driven by the belief that all human beings deserve to live with dignity, respect, and equal rights. This shared sense of moral purpose strengthens the movement and ensures that it remains focused on its goal, the achievement of justice for all. In conclusion, the role of unity in achieving justice is immeasurable. Unity provides the strength, resilience, and moral clarity necessary to confront systems of injustice and demand change. It transforms isolated efforts into collective action, amplifying voices and building momentum toward the realization of justice. Whether in the context of social movements, legal reforms, or political structures, unity remains the foundation of all meaningful progress toward a more just society. It reminds us that the pursuit of justice is not a solitary endeavor but a collective responsibility, one that can only be realized when people come together, bound by a common commitment to fairness and equality. The commitment to moral leadership is one of the most powerful forces in shaping the course of history. It is the bedrock upon which great societies, movements, and communities stand. Moral leadership is not simply about holding a position of authority or influence, it is about embodying a set of values that prioritize the well being, dignity, and rights of others. At its core, moral leadership demands a commitment to doing what is right, even when it is difficult, unpopular, or comes at great personal cost. It is about guiding others with integrity, vision, and empathy, understanding that true leadership transcends personal ambition and requires a profound sense of responsibility to the greater good. This commitment is not a fleeting ideal but a sustained effort to align one's actions with ethical principles that promote justice, equality, and human dignity. Moral leadership is first and foremost about personal integrity. A leader who is committed to moral principles is one who acts in accordance with their values, even when no one is watching. Integrity in leadership builds trust, which is essential in any society or organization. Without trust, the foundation of leadership crumbles. Leaders who act with honesty and transparency create an environment where others feel secure and empowered to follow, collaborate, and contribute. Integrity also means acknowledging mistakes and learning from them, rather than concealing or deflecting responsibility. A leader's ability to admit fault and take corrective action is often more powerful than their ability to remain infallible. This honesty breeds a culture where others feel motivated to act with the same level of moral clarity, reinforcing the importance of ethics in decision-making and everyday actions. Furthermore, a commitment to moral leadership requires empathy and a deep understanding of the experiences of others. True leaders do not act in isolation or for personal gain. They are driven by a sense of compassion and a desire to uplift others. They recognize that leadership is not about dominating or controlling, but about serving the needs of the people they lead. Empathy enables a leader to make decisions that are not only in their own interest, but in the interest of the greater good. It allows them to connect with individuals from diverse backgrounds, to understand the challenges they face, and to work towards solutions that address those challenges with fairness and justice. A moral leader listens as much as they speak, ensuring that everyone's voice is heard and respected. Moral leadership also involves a deep commitment to justice. Justice is not just an abstract concept, it is about ensuring that all individuals are treated fairly and equitably. Leaders who are committed to moral principles strive to create a society where rights are upheld, where discrimination is actively dismantled, and where all people, regardless of their background or identity, have equal access to opportunities and resources. This kind of leadership is not content with the status quo, especially when that status quo perpetuates inequality or injustice. Instead, moral leaders challenge systems of oppression and work tirelessly to bring about meaningful change. They recognize that the fight for justice requires both courage and perseverance, and they are unafraid to confront powerful forces that seek to maintain systems of inequality. The commitment to moral leadership is also about vision, the ability to see beyond the present moment and imagine a better future. Moral leaders do not simply react to circumstances as they arise, they actively work to shape the future in a way that aligns with their ethical values. This vision is informed by a deep understanding of the world as it is and a steadfast belief in the possibility of a better world. It involves not only envisioning a future where justice and equality are realized, but also setting a clear course of action to make that future a reality. Moral leadership is not just about inspiring others with words, but about motivating them to act, to work toward that vision, and to bring it into being. It requires the ability to see potential in others and empower them to contribute their talents and efforts toward the common goal. Moreover, a moral leader is one who leads by example. They understand that their actions speak louder than their words, and they set the standard for behavior within their sphere of influence. Their commitment to ethics is reflected in every decision they make, every relationship they foster, and every challenge they confront. By modeling the behavior they wish to see in others, they inspire those around them to follow suit. Leadership through example creates a ripple effect that extends beyond the leader's immediate sphere, influencing communities, organizations, and even nations. It shows that moral principles are not abstract ideals, but tangible actions that can have a real impact on the world. However, the commitment to moral leadership is not always easy. It often involves difficult decisions that require a leader to sacrifice personal gain or face backlash from those who resist change. Moral leaders may find themselves isolated, criticized, or even vilified for standing up for what is right. Yet, the strength of moral leadership lies in the ability to remain unwavering in the face of adversity. A leader who is committed to ethics will not compromise their values simply to appease others or to maintain power. Instead, they stand firm, guided by their sense of responsibility to the truth, to justice, and to the welfare of others. This kind of leadership is built on resilience, the ability to withstand the pressures of opposition, and the unwavering belief that doing what is right is ultimately the only path to lasting success. The commitment to moral leadership is not limited to individuals in positions of power. It extends to all those who take on the responsibility of guiding others, whether in small communities, workplaces, or larger societal structures. Moral leadership is not a title or a rank, it is a way of living and leading that can be demonstrated in any context. Whether one is a parent, a teacher, a CEO, or a community organizer, the commitment to moral leadership is about making choices that reflect values of integrity, empathy, justice, and vision. It is about using one's influence to elevate others and to work toward a better world. The vision for a just future is a powerful and transformative ideal that guides societies toward a more equitable, fair, and compassionate world. It is a vision rooted in the belief that all individuals, regardless of their race, gender, socioeconomic background, or nationality, are entitled to live with dignity and respect. The pursuit of this vision is driven by a commitment to equality, justice, and the protection of human rights. It is a future where opportunities are not determined by birth, but are available to all, where systemic injustices are dismantled, and where the values of fairness, empathy, and cooperation define the interactions between people and nations. Achieving a just future is not a simple or easy task, but it is an essential pursuit that requires collective effort, persistence, and a steadfast belief in the possibility of change. At the core of the vision for a just future is the idea of equality. A just future envisions a world where no one is discriminated against or marginalized because of their race, ethnicity, gender, religion, or any other characteristic. In this future, every individual has access to the same opportunities, whether in education, employment, healthcare, or housing. The barriers that have historically held certain groups back, whether through laws, social norms, or economic disparities, are removed, allowing individuals to thrive based on their abilities and aspirations rather than their circumstances of birth. This vision requires a radical rethinking of societal structures and institutions, ensuring that they no longer perpetuate inequality, but instead promote inclusivity and fairness. However, equality is not just about removing barriers, it is also about creating systems that actively support those who have been historically disadvantaged. A just future recognizes the need for restorative justice policies and practices that seek to repair the harm caused by past injustices. This includes addressing the legacies of slavery, colonialism, and apartheid, as well as the ongoing effects of racial, gender, and economic discrimination. A just society is one where the disadvantaged are given the tools and resources necessary to overcome systemic disadvantages and to achieve their full potential. It acknowledges that equality does not mean treating everyone exactly the same, but ensuring that everyone has what they need to succeed, taking into account their unique challenges and needs. The vision for a just future is also deeply connected to the protection and promotion of human rights. Human rights are the foundation of justice, ensuring that all individuals are able to live free from oppression, violence, and exploitation. A just future requires the recognition and enforcement of these rights at every level of society, from local communities to international relations. This includes the right to live without fear of persecution, the right to speak freely, the right to access education and healthcare, and the right to participate fully in political and economic life. In this future, governments, institutions, and individuals all have a responsibility to uphold these rights and to challenge any forces that seek to deny them. One of the defining features of a just future is the notion of shared prosperity. A society that is truly just is one where wealth, resources, and opportunities are distributed in a way that allows all members to thrive. In a just future, economic systems are designed to benefit everyone, not just the elite or those who hold power. This means addressing the growing wealth gap between the rich and the poor and ensuring that all individuals have access to the basic necessities of life, such as food, shelter, and healthcare. It also means creating economic systems that value the well-being of people over profits, recognizing that true prosperity is not just about material wealth, but about the health, happiness, and dignity of all people. The vision for a just future also includes environmental justice. In recent years, it has become increasingly clear that the environmental challenges facing our world, climate change, pollution, resource depletion, are deeply intertwined with issues of social and economic justice. The people who are most vulnerable to environmental degradation are often those who are already marginalized and disadvantaged. A just future requires a recognition of the interconnectedness of social, economic, and environmental issues and a commitment to creating sustainable systems that protect the planet and its resources for future generations. This includes transitioning to clean energy, reducing carbon emissions, and ensuring that all communities, particularly those most at risk, have the resources and infrastructure they need to adapt to environmental changes. The pursuit of a just future is also a commitment to peace and conflict resolution. In a world where injustice often leads to violence and conflict, a just future requires that we work to address the root causes of war and violence, poverty, inequality, and political repression. It envisions a world where diplomacy, dialogue, and cooperation are the primary tools used to resolve conflicts, rather than military force. This means investing in conflict prevention, building institutions that promote peace, and fostering a culture of understanding and respect between nations and communities. A just future is one where peace is not just the absence of war, but the presence of justice, equality, and human dignity for all people. Central to the vision for a just future is the idea of empathy and mutual respect. A just society is one where people recognize their shared humanity and work together to build a better world for all. It is a future where people listen to one another, understand one another's experiences, and act in ways that reflect compassion and kindness. Empathy is essential to justice because it helps people recognize that the struggles of others are their struggles too. When people see the humanity in others, they are more likely to fight for their rights and well-being. This vision calls for the creation of communities that are inclusive, that embrace diversity, and that foster a spirit of cooperation rather than division. Achieving the vision for a just future requires collective action. While individuals can make a difference, the challenges we face, inequality, climate change, human rights violations, are too large for any one person to address alone. It is through solidarity and cooperation that real change can be achieved. This vision calls on people from all walks of life, all nations, and all communities to work together toward a common goal of justice. It is a vision that transcends borders, that recognizes the interconnectedness of all people, and that demands collective responsibility for building a better world. In conclusion, the vision for a just future is one that calls for radical change, deep empathy, and a commitment to fairness and equality. It is a future where everyone has the opportunity to live with dignity, where human rights are universally recognized and protected, and where resources and opportunities are shared equitably. Achieving this vision will not be easy, and it will require hard work, sacrifice, and perseverance. But the pursuit of a just future is a noble and essential endeavor, one that can transform societies and create a world where all people can live in peace, prosperity, and equality. It is a vision that challenges us to imagine a better world and to take action to bring that world into being.